through the wind. I give in. I'm storming, breaking like the tide. Every time a bit dizzy, I close my eyes and feel the fizzy. I'm standing waiting, patience. Like an oak I will stay right here in this alley and be closer to home every hour. And the earth is gonna hold me, show my worthiness as we get closer to home. Life is life, both water and ice. We're getting closer by the minute now. Mystery of the unknown, come to me, let it be shown. Reaching for you, stretching. Like an oak I will stay right here in this alley and be closer to home every hour. And the earth is gonna hold me, show my worthiness as we get closer to home.
Good evening again, everybody. So we're gearing up for the next project. We've got our cabinet plywood up through the trap door, and I think I need to figure out a couple more things before I do too much of that. Biggest thing, probably the biggest issue I had bringing that up is I need shorter rigging to draw that up as high as I needed to, so we could shut the trap door without having to swing it out of the way. That's kind of the whole idea of the trap door, is I could lift stuff up, close the trap door, and then set it right back down on the door. It's just as thick as the flooring is in here. But that we need to make it a little bit longer. I don't know if you guys caught it in the camera, but I did cut the motherboard past it. It's already screwed back in place to make my 8 feet because I was like 6 inches shy. I think we had a viewer say something too about it not fitting, being a smart ass, but he was right. So anyway, we're just going to be kind of putzing around the next couple of videos, trying to get ready for the cabinet project. We have a few things that we need to make. I have some 1/2-inch birch plywood we're going to make some jigs and things out of. Now, I mentioned in the last video that we're going to show you guys how you could build some cabinets without a whole lot of tools, but that doesn't include jigs. The more jigs you can make, even if you have the cheapest, shittiest tools in the world, if it'll turn a saw blade and you can make some jigs, you can make some nice cabinets. So that's what we're going to get at. I mentioned the cabinets over on my Instagram page that I had pictures of. The last set I built like 10 years ago. It's been how long it's been since I've been able to get in and do this stuff. But that was done on the same router you guys see me using on the timber frame and everything else. So the little cheap benchtop router table, there wasn't anything to it. There was, really nothing to it. We're going to make kind of the same one for this project until we can go and make a really nice router table. But, so we did it with that. We did it with that joinery you guys see, which you really don't have to. If your table saw is set up well and you don't mind doing a little sanding, you can get by without it. But, so yeah, but I'm going to do these a little different than the way I did them before. They're going to be mortise and tenon joints. Seems to be a theme on this channel. We like mortise and tenon, or I like mortise and tenon. But first jig out of the box we're going to be making tonight is a tenoning jig for the table saw. We're also going to be making a raised panel jig at some point. We're going to be making something for the chop saw. Probably won't be the permanent bench because I need to get the radial arm saw up here because that's all going to be incorporated into one bench along that one wall over there. So anyway, we're going to start off with our tenoning jig, and we'll see how far we can get on that tonight. And then we're just going to work on jigs and fixtures until we have them all made, because it's a pain in the ass to stop mid-project just to make jigs and fixtures. So stay tuned, I'll catch you on the other side of it. Okay, so tonight all we're worried about is getting the main pieces glued on, or glued up, and letting them sit overnight. And then we'll put weights on them. Just don't tell the boss where you got the weights. So you'd probably love to see that her nice Olympic weight set is being used for glue ups. That's what you get for exercising, you know. Your husband, if he's a woodworker or whatever he's into, he's going to rod your stuff every chance he can just to put his projects together. You teach her a lesson. So, I try to get the surface glued as much as possible. And I spread it out. And of course, I use the old finger and wear it for a week. What happens when you don't shower. Yeah, you definitely want to try to have all your jigs and stuff made that you can, every one of them that you can think of, and keep in mind if you build them well enough, they'll last you a long time. We're getting the rains helping us out tonight. A little bit of background noise. That's really important when you make one of these or anything that you're going to run on your table saw. Everything's got to be really square and true to that blade and that table, because that's going to determine how well your project comes out. And if you do it right, there's really not a lot of handwork involved in making everything fit. You pretty much want to get them to a point where your jigs kind of do the work for you. Now you can use regular plywood for this if you want. I like cabinet grade plywood because it's a little more stable. If you're going to use regular plywood, you can even use boards if you had to. But just keep in mind that sooner or later that stuff's probably going to move on you. And I can tell you that because I've done it too many damn times. Now this is the point where you get everything lined up perfect. Get it as nice as you can get it. Especially along the side that's going to ride on your table saw, you really want that good. And if everything's square on your saw and you've got everything tuned right, it should pretty well line itself up. You shouldn't have to fidget with it too much unless you lean on it like I just did and you move it. You want to double check it after you put your weight on it. Something feels wrong about putting a rusty weight on nice cabinet plywood. Of course, I wipe as much excess of the glue off as I can, just so I don't have to screw around with it later. Okay, that piece is ready to go. Now these are going to go over top of the fence. Put too much glue on that one, it wants to move. That piece is pretty important. You really want that one nice and flush. And you want it all nice and flush, but that piece is really, that piece is going to determine the squareness of this thing to your fence. So make sure it's right. Alright, one more. One more and we'll call it a night. Try not to use so much on this one. And yes, this right here is a dandy way to get splinters. It's a dandy way, so watch out for that too. There we go. Phase one is done. Ah, there we go. Sitting down in the nice chair on my ass with my feet up and a cup of coffee. Does not get any better than that. Almost feel like I'm at work. Anyway, so with this next series coming up, I guess we'll kind of start this off as the first video in it and show you guys how to build cabinets on a tool budget, working with what you have, because for those of you who have watched for a while, you know I do a lot with a little. And okay, we were talking about in the last video a little bit, you know, most of us are not people who have a huge shop full of tools to work with. Would I like to be one of those people? You betcha. And any of us who say we're not, yeah, I doubt their personal honesty with themselves anyway. But yeah, I mean, we all watch these channels that have just every little gadget, gizmo, jig, power tool, you name it, they have it. We're not one of those channels, not yet anyway. Maybe someday, you just never know. But a lot of those people, they have tool sponsors that provide them with quite a bit. I mean, those shops, some of them are tens of thousands of dollars in tools sitting in those shops, some of them more than that. We're more like hundreds of dollars sitting here in this shop. But that's okay, I don't mind it. You know, tools can only make you so good at what you're doing. A lot of it's got to come from you, the guy who's building them or the lady who's building them. Doesn't matter. You know, you could have every tool in the world, but if you don't know how to make that wood look nice, you know, you're just not gonna get the results you want. So this one tonight, this is the start of our tenoning jig for the table saw. we would have finished it tonight, except for I want to let that glue set up overnight. Tomorrow night we'll get it all put together. We're going to put some clamping mechanism on it. We're going to put a stop block on there for the, well, just pretty much so we can hold the pieces square. Obviously that's not going to be giant tenons. It's not made for timber framing tenons or anything like that, but for cabinetry work, small furniture work, it really is a perfect jig for the table saw. And if you, as long as you have a table saw fence, you can make one of these. Doesn't matter what your fence is, you can make it to work. The only thing that's a pain about this one is the bolts that sit on the bolt heads that are on top of this thing. So they make it, I would rather be able to have the whole jig making contact with the fence on 3 sides, but I'm only going to get 2 on this because of the nature of this fence. I've had a few people tell me I should switch to this fence or that fence, and probably down the road we might. A lot of people don't like these old Delta fences. I've found that if I keep track of it and I adjust it just right, I get really good results. I have it set up now to where the marking gauge on the fence rail itself, if I set the point there, that's where that blade's cutting, and I've got that fence nice and square to the blade. That makes a big difference. And that's going to be super important no matter what table saw you're using. That's going to be really important for cutting tenons and things like that, because you want, basically when you put those tenons together, you want the lines to disappear, and that's how you're going to get it with your saw being set up right. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We did get our plywood up here. Like I said, we'll have to do some rethinking on that, but the cart itself, I like the cart, and it did what it saved me in my back and my leg from having to haul plywood up the stairs. And cabinet plywood is heavy stuff. It's a lot heavier than CDX. So we have, I think we have 2 half-inch maple plywood sheets and 3 3/4-inch maple plywood sheets on that cart. And I think I could easily support 6 3/4-inch pieces all together. And that's a pretty good amount. Kind of what I like about that right there is it's on casters. I can move it around wherever I want. When I want to put a piece up on the table saw, instead of lugging a whole piece across the shop, I can wheel that thing right over, tip it onto the table saw. Just saves me a lot of work. One thing you will have to watch when you're working with cabinet plywood, real easy to dig it, it's real easy to mess it up, and you're going to hate yourself because that's supposed to be exposed. So anyway, take it easy everybody, I'll catch you on the next one.